Streaming ruined my life. Not in a figurative, overdramatic way. No, I'm being serious. Dead serious. If you could see me now. Sitting here in my dorm, alone, terrified. My computer hums in the corner, but not mechanically. I turn my tear-stained face toward the scaly, dripping piece of machinery and wince at the sound. It's growling, like something alive, like a caged animal. But I won't let it out. I feed it. I try to keep it quiet, but there's no escape from this prison. Yes, I'm alone. Just me in this cold, dark room. Just me and this horrid biomechanical abomination on my desk. But I am surrounded. I hear them. The tapping at my window, the faint creaks above me, the soft knocks at the door. They're watching, waiting, wanting more. Funny, really. All I wanted was a little connection. A sliver of validation from strangers on the internet. I never imagined something else was watching me. Waiting. Feeding on my isolation. Exploiting my hunger for attention. It started freshman year. My first time away from home. You know how it is when you grow up quiet and introverted. Most kids like me have those few solid friends they cling to through childhood. It feels like enough. Like you don't need anyone else. But then college hits. You're thrown into a swarm of people you don't know. Everyone else seems to hit the ground running, joining study groups, going to parties, sliding effortlessly into this new social world. Me? Not so much. I told myself it was fine, that I liked being introverted, and at the very least, I thought I'd have a roommate to talk to, someone to split the silence. But something happened with housing or scheduling, whatever it was. He wasn't showing up until second semester. So it was just me. Me in this room. I went through the motions, attended classes, made small talk when I could, even joined a couple clubs just to put myself out there. But every time I started to come out of my shell, everyone already had their cliques. I was late. Always late. So I stopped trying. Just smiled politely when I bumped into someone I recognized. Kept everything surface level. No real connections. Just drifting between faces and lectures, sinking quietly into the background. It's ironic. I was constantly surrounded by people, and yet I'd never felt so alone. This went on for months, until my depression peaked. That's when I knew I needed to do something, anything, to fill the silence eating me alive. That's when I decided to try streaming. I'd always been a fan of streamers. You know, the big names. XQC, Shroud, Valkyrae. Sometimes I'd even catch smaller, niche guys late at night on Twitch. Yeah, it's a little cringy, I know. I'm not blind to my generation's obsession with parasocial relationships. Everyone buys into the illusion. You watch someone every day, you feel close, like you're part of their life. You share the jokes, the rage, the tears. You feel community with the strangers in chat. But it's all fake. Manufactured. They don't know you. And you sure don't know them. Still, I drank the Kool-Aid like everyone else. Besides, I figured it could be fun. Better than sitting in my dorm all day, mindlessly scrolling or gaming alone. I already played on PC here and there. Why not try streaming? just to see what happens. That's when I stumbled across a new platform. Upstreamer. It popped up one night when I was doom scrolling. Some low-quality ad, an AI-generated image of a guy at his desk, Giga Chad jawline, stacks of cash piled next to his keyboard. The caption read, "New streaming platform. Be a founder. Monetize faster. Get noticed. Get sponsored." I hadn't heard of it before. Hardly anything came up when I searched either. No Reddit threads, no official YouTube reviews, just a slick-looking site, a few vague testimonials, and some glowing quotes from people I'd never heard of. But it looked legit. Kind of underground. Worst case scenario, nobody watches, and I go back to my solitary life. So, I downloaded the companion software, made an account, and booted up the latest indie horror release on Steam. Something called Project 404, I think? Looked rough around the edges, but had decent buzz on forums. I figured horror would be fun. Easy reactions. Screaming cells, right? That night, I cleaned up, set up my computer, and hit go live. And immediately, I had views. Dozens of them. Watching. Chat already moving. Default Skin04 says, "Hi, Alex." Weber12 said, "Nice dorm." Ariel Dupe said, "What you playin'?" I blinked. "Oh, hi everyone. This is, Alex Games 87. My voice cracked. My username sounded so dumb out loud. I wasn't sure what else to say. Honestly, I expected the stream to be dead. Maybe a troll dropping a comment before vanishing. But chat kept coming. Kept watching. I cleared my throat. "Sorry, this is my first stream. I thought I'd try out this new indie horror game, Project 404. I couldn't stop glancing at my own face in the little camera feed. I looked awkward, pale, my shirt bunched up on one shoulder. I adjusted it, and then froze. For half a second, I thought something shifted in the background behind me. A flicker, like a shadow leaning too close, but when I looked again, there was nothing. I shook my head and forced my attention back to the stream, making a mental note, stop staring at myself, just focus on the game. I'm terrible with scary stuff, by the way. Wasn't planning to have people watch me get scared witless on my first stream, but hey, here we are. It was a terrible joke. I cringed the second it left my mouth. But chat lit up. LOL. We love that. You're adorable. Keep going. They liked it. They liked me. They started commenting on my setup, my desk, my lighting, my choice of clothing. Someone said I looked like an actor from some streaming show. I didn't, but it was kind of them to say. Another asked if I had any other game recommendations they could check out. They were interested. Interested in me. I'd be lying if I said that didn't feel good. It felt really good. For a couple hours, I just existed. I talked through the game like I was some critic. I wasn't. I screamed like a child at every jump scare. I laughed at myself, and chat laughed with me. There was a rhythm to it. It felt natural. I felt like I wasn't just the guy sitting alone in the dorm. Not the background extra on campus. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. And maybe even a little bit liked. things just kind of took off from there. The first few nights of streaming, I hit my first 100 subscribers. By the end of the week, I was pushing 1,000. Now, it's been maybe a month, and I've passed 300,000. People started donating. Some dropped a few bucks here and there, others sent hundreds. I started recognizing names, regulars, super fans who never missed a stream. It was fun, addictive, even. I put more money into my setup. I started by simply upgrading my rig. It was about time anyway. Then I got a better camera. Next, I added some soft LED lights. After a few more additions, I felt happy with the improved setup. It was clean, professional. It turned my cramped dorm room into a little studio. I felt like I was building something real. But then I started noticing something odd. I wanted to start expanding my online presence. I thought maybe I could carve out a platform outside of the streams. I wasn't really one for social media, but it seemed like a natural progression. But when I started searching for Upstreamer, nothing came up. No hashtags, no clips, no accounts. Even the ads were gone. It felt like I was the only person on this platform. The only one being watched. Then the strange messages started. Usually, chat was chill, friendly even. Every now and then you'd get a troll trying to be edgy, dropping some obscene comment for a clippable moment, but that was rare. Tonight was different. I booted up stream like usual, turned on the lights, checked my sound, and launched the latest game I'd been working through. View count 312,408. But chat was silent. Not a single comment. Hey, is this thing on? I tapped the mic. Nothing. Tough crowd. I laughed weakly and started loading up my game profile, my eyes flicking to the silent chat window. I guess the platform's having issues today. I'll give it a few minutes and ding. A message. No, a flood of them, all from different usernames. I stared for a moment in silence. How old were you when you had your first nightmare? That was it. 10 messages, identical, simultaneous. I blinked at the screen. Weird. But probably just a glitch. Someone hacking the platform, maybe? It wouldn't be the first time something like this has happened, right? Someone commandeers a website just because they can and wreaks havoc. Whatever it was, it gave me chills. I leaned toward the mic. Okay. Something's clearly off with Upstreamer tonight. Either the site's glitched or we have a lot of really coordinated stalkers on stream today. I hovered over the end stream button. Ding. More messages. Dozens this time. Different usernames again. Why don't you have any friends? Is that why you're lonely? My stomach dropped. This wasn't random. The phrasing, the timing. Sure, it could have been meant for anyone, but I knew in my heart that wasn't the case. It felt like the questions were targeting me specifically. I forced a smile. Alright guys, looks like the chat feature has been hacked or something. Gonna hop off for now. Catch you all next time. I clicked end stream. The screen faded. Silence returned to my lonely dorm room. But my mind was anything but quiet. I sat back in my chair, heart racing. And there was something else. Just before the stream ended, I caught one last message in the corner of the screen. We can see you, even when you're not streaming. It's been a few days since that last stream. I haven't opened Upstreamer since. Haven't even touched my desktop. I booted up an old laptop just so I could keep working on assignments. I keep telling myself it was just a troll, or maybe a hacker. They are usually one and the same. But something still doesn't sit right. Why is there no trace of Upstreamer online anymore? Why were those messages so specific? Why me? I was just getting out of class when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I ignored it. But then it rang again. And again. Curiosity got the better of me. Hello? A woman's voice answered. Young, professional, practiced. Yes, is this Alex Streams from Upstreamer? The name caught me off guard. I stepped into an empty classroom, shutting the door behind me to dampen the hallway noise. Yeah, this is Alex. Are you with the platform? Not exactly, she said a bit too quickly. Her tone shifted, colder, more clinical. I work with a government agency. We have reason to believe you've been affected by an ongoing cybercrime operation targeting users of Upstreamer. I paused. My heart ticked faster. Oh, what kind of cybercrime? She paused a moment. I heard a ruffling of pages, like she was sifting through some memo left on her desk. We don't have all the details yet. The company that owned the platform went under last quarter. A hacker group appears to have commandeered their infrastructure. Server data, user profiles, communication logs. They're likely using it to harvest personal information. The way she spoke, it felt rehearsed. Like a weird PSA or a script she'd been instructed to read at some government call center. I cleared my throat. So, what should I do? Do not attempt to delete your account. This could trigger further access on their end. Just delete the application from your system and walk away. Forget all about it, she said sternly. Right, okay, got it, I said, trying to hide the disappointment in my voice. Thank you for your time. Click. The call ended. I stood there for a few seconds, just staring at my lock screen. Weirdly, I felt relieved. At least there was an explanation now. Some technical glitch, a group of scammers, something concrete, something real. The paranoia, the messages, it all made sense, right? Still, there was a part of me that felt hollow, embarrassed even. I'd really thought I was building something. I was starting to feel like someone. Now, it was over before it ever truly began. I told myself I'd follow her advice. Get rid of it all. Upstreamer, the studio. Go back to normal. Forget the whole thing. But when I got back to my dorm, something was wrong. Horribly wrong. I walked into my dorm and dropped my bag on the bed beside my desk. I turned to face my PC, then stopped. A sharp, foul odor hit me in the face. I checked the trash. Empty. No leftover food, no moldy containers, nothing. I cracked open the window to try and clear the air. I gave the room a once-over before grabbing a seat at my desk and tapping the power button on my monitor. My fingers stuck to the mouse. I yelped and pulled my hand back. Something wet and sticky was covering it. I followed the trail of fluid secreting from the mouse all the way to the back of the PC. That's when I saw it. My machine was dripping. Mold had spread across the casing. Thick patches of it clung to the sides like moss. A strange, orid fluid oozed from the vents, dripping down the monitor's frame and pooling on the desk. The same liquid seeped from the crevices in my mouse, warm and sticky. My keyboard was flooded too, keys half submerged in rust-colored water. The monitor flickered on. It was Upstreamer, still running. I tried to close it, but the app wouldn't quit. I know I ended the stream last time, but I must have forgotten to close the application. Whatever Upstreamer was, it was infecting my machine, my room, everything. I had left it running for 3 days and didn't even think to double check if I closed it right. Now it was festering, spreading, and I couldn't do anything to stop it, but I had to try. I yanked the power cord from the wall, and then the monitor. The fans went silent. But the chirping continued. It wasn't coming from the wall. The machine kept making noise, even unplugged. I stepped back, unsure of what to do next. That is when I heard something outside. A faint pattering, rapid, soft, like a child's knocking excitedly. No, it was more than that. Dozens of hands at least. Dozens of tiny fingers tapping all at once. I froze. Shadows zipped past the crack under my door. Quick, darting shapes. My first thought was that it might be an RA. A campus event, maybe? A petition? Directions to a friend's room? I looked through the peephole. The hallway was darker than usual. Unnaturally dim. And someone was standing right outside my door. They were short, maybe 2 or 3 feet tall, hard to make out. Their bodies weren't fully formed. They looked like something from an old video game back when computer graphics were still uncanny and janky to look at. Their forms were jagged, pixelated silhouettes, black and shimmering, like shadows stretched over a low-res screen. Their eyes were the clearest to see. Big, white, glowing. They didn't blink, it just stared. There were 5 of them, maybe more. Some stood still, inches away from my door. Others zipped up and down the hallway like kids playing tag, but it wasn't playful. They shoved each other hard. One of them hit another against the wall with a force that would have broken a real kid's ribs. And all the while, they kept glancing at my door, like they were waiting or listening. I backed away from the door slowly, my heart thudding like a war drum in my chest. What in the world was I looking at? I kept trying to make sense of it. A prank, maybe? A hallucination? I didn't know what to think, but it felt real. Too real. I had to take it seriously. I stumbled backward and knocked into my desk. My elbow hit the edge hard, but I barely felt it. All I could think about were those eyes. Big, bright, unblinking eyes. Then I heard it again. Pattering. Not from the hallway this time, from the other side of the room. I turned at the window. The curtains were drawn, but behind them I saw movement. Little shifting shadows, bobbing side to side. Then the glowing eyes returned, dozens of them, lined up along the glass, staring straight at me. My stomach twisted. I was on the 2nd floor. They shouldn't have been able to reach the window. What were these things? I didn't want to look, but I found myself creeping closer. I pulled the curtain back just an inch. That was a mistake. There were maybe 10 of them now, pressed against the glass like bugs drawn to a porch light. Their hands, if you could call them that, smeared something thick and black across the window pane. Small, blurry fingers gripped the inside of the window through the small opening I created to let the foul odor out, but they didn't open the window. They remained outside, teasing the opening with their claws. Some had started to climb on top of each other, limbs glitching and bending in ways that hurt to look at. One of them tilted its head all the way sideways, like a puppet on broken strings. It looked like it was smiling, except it didn't have a mouth. I dropped the curtain and backed away again. My skin crawled, panic washed over me. Whatever these things were, they weren't people. It didn't make sense. And somehow, they were here for me. I wasn't sure what to do now. Call the police? My family? I didn't even know what I could say. I'm being terrorized by cyber gnomes? It made no sense. None of this made sense. And then I remembered. The agent. I wondered if she knew more about this than she was letting on. It would explain the odd demeanor. There was one way to find out. I pulled up my phone and redialed the number that had called me earlier. It rang 3 times before someone picked up. Hello? The voice was soft, caught off guard. Not what I expected. It didn't sound very official. Yeah, is this the government agent I talked to? About Upstreamer? My voice was thin and shaky. I barely got the words out. There was a pause. Oh, yes, this is her. Is everything okay? Her tone shifted fast. It still wasn't professional. It sounded worried. She sounded nervous. This didn't sound like the person I spoke to earlier. Something was off. No, it's not okay. My computer, it's dripping. Like leaking some fluid or something. I can't find anyone. I'm alone. Except for these things. I paused, swallowing hard. They're knocking. On the walls, on the floor, everywhere. Do you hear them? I was rambling now. My breath hitched. Panic crept into my voice. Wait, who did you say you were with? The Marines? CIA? Can you send someone? I need an army or a squad or whatever you people do in these situations. I sounded paranoid, manic even, but I hoped she saw through the panic. I needed help. Quickly. The line went quiet for a few seconds. Then she said something that knocked the wind out of me. Listen, Alex, I'm not an agent, but I can still help you. I just need you to trust me. What? I blinked. Wait, what do you mean you're not an agent? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lie. I had to get your attention. Her voice steadied. Give me a second. That familiar sound of pages rustling echoed over the line. No, you said you were an agent. You said you could help me. I was getting agitated now. Who are you? She stopped her search and let out a sigh. My name is Ariana. I've been tracking companies like Upstreamer for a while, but they aren't really companies. They're fronts, used to cover up something else. Something old and dangerous. What are you talking about? My head was spinning. I know this sounds insane, she continued, but I've seen it happen before. It happened to me. That's why I'm trying to help. These things, they warp the world around you, your perception, your surroundings. They isolate you, Alex. That's how they get you. She cut herself off before pivoting those last couple words. Get me? What were they going to do to me? She continued. The more you give them of yourself, the more they take. The world bends around you until it's just you and them. It's a miracle we're even talking right now. That's why we need to act fast. I stared at the leaking computer across from me. It's looking even bigger now. What do I do now? I asked quietly. Ariana took a breath. I could hear her moving and flipping pages again. I pictured her sitting alone in some dimly lit basement, surrounded by conspiracy boards and stacks of half-filled notebooks. It wasn't a comforting thought. I preferred secret agent Ariana. But this person, whoever she really was my only hope. It's already inside, she said. Your machine. It's a foothold, a nesting site. You need to sever its influence, but you can't just unplug it. Not now. It's too deep. So what then? She mumbled something low as she was working her way through some document I had to imagine she was reading. It says here you need to... Her voice faltered. Ariana? I have to what? The panic in my voice was rising. She cleared her throat before continuing. You have to log back in. Go live again, face it, and try to make a deal. I blinked hard. A deal? I know how it sounds, she said. But these things run on rules, rituals. If it thinks you're open to bargaining, it might consider it. It lives off of your interaction. It needs to know more about you or it'll starve. This is crazy, I muttered. I can't talk to it. I'm not... You're insane. This can't be happening. I get it, she said, her voice softening. I really do. But I also know you don't have many options left. And whatever this thing is, you don't want it spreading to anyone else. Not your friends, not your family, not anyone. She sounded scared, but also sincere. Sincere. Like someone who really had been here before. Okay, I said. My voice was small. I'll try. There was a low buzz on the line now, like something was straining our connection. Good. You're not alone, Alex. It's going to be all right. But listen carefully. Do not overcomplicate the deal, okay? The buzzing was louder now. What do you mean? What do you think it wants? The noise was at its peak now. It felt like I was yelling over a storm. You give... Her final two words barely rang through the static. The call ended. That was all I got. I stared at the screen, already hearing the hum of my computer starting again. I took a deep breath and sat down in the chair. The room had changed, warped into something almost unrecognizable. A thick blue haze clung to the air like smoke. It painted the room a sterile color. The wide-eyed figures outside the window stared in, unblinking, their faces pressed close, fogging the glass, silent, watching. The machine in front of me looked even more corrupted than before. The plastic panels on the monitor were warped and twisted, bristling with coarse black hairs. They looked more like an insect's exoskeleton now, rigid but alive. The PC gave off a low, guttural hum. It sounded more like an animal than a machine at this point. A quiet growl vibrated through the desk. It pulsed in slow waves, almost like it had a heartbeat. From vents and unseen crevices, orange fluid oozed and dripped steadily onto the floor. I reached out and touched the mouse. The instant my skin made contact, I winced. Thin spines sprouted from either side and clamped down on my hand like barbs. I gasped, but didn't pull away. I couldn't. The creature held me firmly in place. I didn't even need to move it. The screen blinked to life on its own. Upstreamer launched automatically. My webcam activated with a click. My own terrified face appeared on screen, eyes wide, beads of sweat crawling down my forehead. It looked like the beginning of a snuff video. I looked like prey. The chat window opened with a soft ping. What do you think about before you go to sleep? There were no usernames anymore, just a panel of unsightly red text on the screen. I stared at the question. It wasn't just asking. It was digging. Pulling at the private corners of my life like it was feeding off me, turning my life and experiences into food. Another pain. What does pain feel like? The barbs around my hand dug in a little deeper. I swallowed hard. I'm not going to tell you anything, I said, and my voice was shaky but stern. The mouse's spines tightened, beads of blood pooling around the holes in my hand. I flinched. I felt like an insect burrowing its pinchers into my skin. Another message appeared instantly. What are your parents' names? Where do they live? Pain flared through my hand. I shut my eyes and tried to steady my breathing, tried to focus through it. Just then, the microphone on my desk shot towards me like a viper. It swung around my head and wrapped around my neck. The cord was slimy and fleshy like a sickly eel. I already told you, you're not getting anything from me, I said, my voice hoarse from the pressure on my neck. You're going to starve here. A low, menacing growl rumbled from the mutated PC next to me. Its vents vibrated with something deep and wet. The cord around my neck tightened. The barbs in my hand were an inch deep now. It was getting desperate. I just hoped it was desperate enough. Let's make a deal, I rasped. I give you something you want, and you let me go. The growl stopped. The noose loosened around my neck. Outside the room, the tapping on the windows and doors ceased. The silence was immediate and total, like the whole building had gone still, holding its breath. Okay. Well, what do you want? For a moment, nothing. Then a message appeared. We want to be friends. I felt a chill. Friends? I don't understand, I said, shaking my head slowly. My voice felt small in the silence. Another pause, longer this time. A low vibration emitted from the microphone. Then it returned. One question. Every week, you answer. We leave you alone. I was confused. It sounded simple. Harmless, even. One question a week. But I knew better. It wasn't just talking. It was burrowing into my life, making itself part of it, slowly, patiently, like a virus. I couldn't have meaningful friendships. I couldn't have a trusting relationship. I could bring people into my life, sure, but I couldn't let them get too close. Not with this thing around. It would isolate me permanently. But the words repeated in my head. We leave you alone. I looked around the room, the haze, the fluid, the eyes still lingering outside my window. This thing could kill me. Or worse, I could stay here forever. It could ask me questions for an eternity until my mind turns to mush and I forget what the answers are. But it didn't want to. It wanted more than that. It needed to feed on my life, and it couldn't do that if I wasn't willing. We were locked in a stalemate. I had no other option. Deal, I whispered. The moment I said it, the room began to brighten. The haze dissolved, the low hum of the creature machine softened to a dull whir. The small figures at the window blinked out of sight. I heard footsteps outside, the shuffle of students in the hallway, distant voices, laughter. Reality snapped back into place like nothing had happened. But it had. And I knew, deep down, that nothing would ever be the same again. Something had come into my life, and it wasn't leaving. Not ever. Not ever. My machine looks normal again, but it's still monstrous to me. Every week, I open Upstreamer, wait for the question, and answer. At first, the questions were innocent. What's your last name? Do you have any siblings? Where were you born? But they changed. Over time, they grew sharper, hungrier. Who is the man that watches you from afar? Does your mother know she is sick? Do you know what your uncle watches late at night? They aren't questions. They're messages, warnings. It knows things now. Awful things. About me. About my family. And it wants me to know that it knows. I still answer. I have to. That is the deal. Even when the answer is, I don't know. Because it does. It knows. The questions keep me up at night. They gnaw at me, keep me isolated, paranoid, afraid. I still haven't talked to Ariana since that night. I tried to call her as soon as everything was settled, but the call doesn't go through anymore. At first I thought something was wrong, that something got to her. Now I'm starting to suspect something else. This thing. I gave it a foothold into my life when I made the deal. It doesn't harm me. It can't. Those are the terms. But that doesn't mean it can't meddle. trick me, isolate me, keep me from those who can destroy it. I keep hoping one day that the call will go through. But there's a part of me that doesn't want to reach her. I'm scared she'll confirm what I already suspect. That I'm cursed. That I made the wrong deal. I didn't follow her instructions. I'm too far gone. And the worst part, I think I enjoy it. In some sick, hollow way. When I started streaming, I was starving for attention, desperate for someone to notice me. This thing, it does. It waits for me. It listens. It feeds on every word I give it like they're sacred. Like I'm sacred. That kind of attention, it's addictive. Even when the questions are sick, even when I'm being taunted and tormented. The reality is, this thing lives for me. And I let it. Maybe someday I'll break the cycle. Talk to Ariana. Find a way to end this. But until then, I am stuck. So, I'm reaching out to all of you. Please, if anyone is reading this, I need help. If you have a solution, a guess, anything really, I'm all ears. I don't want to be alone anymore. Thank you so much for listening to my narration of this wonderful story. Don't forget to support the author, which I have linked in the description, as well as the original story. And I just want to give a quick shout out to my patrons, Scott, Old Penguin, Ellie Hutmeyer, Mr. Sankofa, Austin My Love, Rinku Star, William Hartley, Cupcake Hips, Alonzo, Icy Narrates, Jesse Hartley, Eric Cifuentes, Lawrence Wallen, and Melissa Perez. I also try to link a different charity or a different cause every month and maybe a little more. So don't forget to check out the description to support the author of the story you just listened to and to maybe help somebody else out, even if it's just $1. As always, if you guys have a prayer request, please let me know in the comments, shoot me a message on Discord. I would love to know how I can be praying for you. Thank you guys so much. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video.